I'm coming back to that argument where like literally anything that lets us get away with this with a functioning, in ear quotes, right, a functioning democracy in the United States, we have to do it. We don't have a choice. We have to do literally everything we can. So just to get to some of the comments, Deb Avera said Pete never directly states his plan. He speaks words but not committing to anything substantial. I actually said this on Twitter. He said like a bunch of very, very presidential words. They didn't mean anything, but he said them very presidentially in a way that, quite frankly, will work for a lot of people. Casey said Pete's charismatic, but clearly not ready for prime time. Sherry said exactly. Pete says the shiny words, but who knows what he's actually saying. He sounds great. I feel that he'd be an easy centrist pull of voting, and I mean that's what a lot of people are fighting over now is sort of the moderate vote. Sherry said Warren's plans are good, but in her voice tonight, she sounded a bit more timid to me. Is that just me? No, it definitely isn't. Trump's more Nixonian than Nixon with the enemies list. I mean, that's just true. And there's, some discussion around Amy. So I kind of feel like Amy did do pretty well this time, as for what she is and what she's trying to do. And again, she's trying to be the non-Bernie, non-extremist, like for the people who think that Bernie is extreme, that kind of thing. And I really wanted Yang to fucking rail into that. Because honestly, as a unifier, Andrew Yang is the one to fill that hole, right? Like, Amy Klobuchar talking about how amazing she is as a legislator in the Senate is exactly why she should not leave the Senate, in my humble opinion, right? Finding a unifier that, yes, and now, again, like in electoral politics, I can hear Casey speaking in my head right now, even though she's not. But, it is with merit that she says, I have won Trump districts already, right? You're not winning Trump districts as much as Andrew Yang has crossover appeal with his capacity for this new kind of message. And so
I think that's
way
too optimistic.
But I think there's math. I mean, honestly, we might not get the opportunity to find out, except that Yang is actually polling higher than Amy Klobuchar most of the time.
Yeah. Who did better in delegate equivalents in Iowa?
Not Amy Klobuchar.
She did better than Yang, I believe, didn't she?
Yeah. Did she? Yeah. Oh, well, then I'm going to shut the fuck up.
So Seth, let's let Seth in here. What do you think?
Oh man, it's so bizarre because I was imagining if there was a state that Andrew was going to overperform in, it would have been in Iowa. I mean, he's got the entire, Highway 44, whatever it is in Iowa, the largest kind of truck stop area in the country. I thought if he's going to outperform his polling, it should be here. And the fact that Klobuchar was, pushing forward beyond him, I honestly do think that this is an issue of just of how many people have seen him, how many people know what he's about and everything. But it does just frustrate the hell out of me because I don't know who's like looking at Klobuchar and saying, wow, I am so energized by this person. I want this person to be
I can tell you because I actually know some of them. And I don't agree with them. But as an example, Amy Siskind, who's like a righteous feminist activist, and one of the people that we were following, Greg and I, she was making this list of all the fucked up authoritarian psycho things that Trump was doing, and all every the things week changing every single week, right? And so every Sunday or Monday, we would get together on our show and we would list through the 100 and then 110 and then 120 and then 150 and then 250 things a week that were completely and totally out of the ordinary for authoritarianism or whatever, right? And it was because of Amy Siskind that we had this list because she was collating this whole list. It was really, really intense. She's absolutely for Amy Klobuchar. Interestingly enough, so is Rachel Maddow. She has been the entire time. Uh-huh. And as people that are looking at I mean, we almost had a woman as president last time. And if I was a woman activist, I would pretty much fucking just want a woman at this point. And, if there was a plausible way that they could win, I'd be all right for it. Right. Because it's like one thing for all of us to be super academic about it as guys who have had presidents look like us since checks watched the rest of time. Right. So there's a bit of that going on. But there's also this whole Midwest theory of the case that if we can't win the Midwest, we can't win. And Amy Klobuchar fucking lands that plane every day of the week.
Yeah, right? I want to jump in on this because somebody was telling us the other day that they thought Pete was going to do well in Iowa because he resonates with evangelicals. We thought that was nuts when we heard it the other day.
But it was Ash Gallagher who said it. And I never disagree with her.
Absolutely right.
Cooler than me, but yeah.
Klobuchar is going to resonate with that. First of all,
I think you may be
Iowa is very, very white, very, very middle of the road, right?
Yeah.
So it would make sense that the middle of the road candidates were going to do better there.
So I was chime in on the evangelical part here because
yeah.
I was just watching David Pacman bringing up this video of I think it was a Klobuchar voter actually, who they didn't have enough votes in the first round. She went over to Buttigieg, and then she found out that Buttigieg was gay. And she like went up to the precinct captain and she was like, I want to take my vote back. And it was the weirdest thing, but it sparked this discussion about like, is it possible that like these groups of evangelical voters just don't actually know that he's gay?
That's hard for me to imagine, but I don't live in a Fox News bubble.
I mean, honestly, like it's entirely plausible because I don't know if you've noticed, but evangelical people not so good on the information.
And again,
just
this
saying.
brings me back to like just this genuine confusion about how everything's playing out. I mean,
yeah,
you know, his polling didn't suggest that he was going to do amazing in the first place. But if we're talking about like, I don't know, Klobuchar on the debate stage tonight saying something like, if you are someone who's stretching their paycheck out to get everything paid and everything, I am here for you. And I'm like, I've been stretching my paycheck out for a year. I've been unemployed. What exactly are you going to do for me? It doesn't make much sense when she tries to toe the line between this progressive, you know, view of like, I'm going to help everyone, but also still be a moderate at the same time.
Do you think maybe part of it is that, and this is something we see whenever we talk about SNAP benefits, whenever we talk about welfare, whenever we talk about who deserves things, that what people are afraid of is not that they're going to get $1,000 a month. They're afraid that people that don't deserve it are going to get $1,000 a month, and it really fucking bothers them.
And honestly, like I think this might be an indictment of how the Republicans work for sure, but I think it also might be an indictment about how we work as progressives. Right? Because like I have seen people want to litigate the kinds of people who will get help. And if anyone else gets help, then they're not in at the expense of the people that fucking need help.
And so
right? It's Seth, go ahead.
Well, so the reflex that I want to have when I consider this, because I do think that, you know, it's there to some degree, is the notion of selfish altruism. But really, this is something you would really expect to be wielding against conservatives or Republicans. It's the idea that it's in your interest to be altruistic or to be philanthropic because it's going to help the people around you, and you'll wind up with a net savings. Like if people aren't so strung out, and you know, they won't be on the streets if they've got that $1,000 a month. It's in your benefit if you look at it in a selfish way. But if you try to do selfish altruism when you're talking with leftists, they're going to take that and immediately say, well, that's not a correct way of looking at it. Like you're stuck in this rock between a hard place. I don't know if that's the prevalent thought or not. It certainly seems to be there's a large sect of the left.
I know enough generous-hearted, wealthy people, and wealthy meaning that they're comfortable. They have a nice big home. They have enough cars. Their kids are in college. That I believe if they got the $1,000 a month, they're not going to spend it on annual Disney passes. They're probably, maybe not all of them, but I'll bet a bunch of them are going to donate it to charities that we know and love and causes that we know and love. To make their communities better, and I have that much faith in those folks.
Yeah,
I trust them with that $1,000. Why, why is the obverse not true?
The idea that it wouldn't be regressive is completely insane. Because at the end of the day, like staples will be likely exempted from the VAT tax as a rule or whatever, right? But the people that are making ridiculous amounts of money, generally speaking, are making on capital, and those capital gains are coming from corporations that will be getting a 10% draw on every single economic transaction that they make, right? So it ends up being intensely progressive. Those same rich people, instead of waiting for them to be kind to us, right? The corporations that are feeding their capital inflow are going to be taxed so that we can just do it collaboratively from the jump.
Go around.
Now, I could spit here and talk, and I want to talk about this forever, literally forever. It's the main thing that I want to speak about.
And I got literally all day.
Great,
just
great.
I don't really.
Yeah, I don't know. I need to be up in the morning a little bit. Actually, I thought it was going until 11, but
it is. Here we are, early as fuck.
Sweet. But the thing is as much as I want to talk about all of these things, is it even registering? It doesn't even matter. It's nothing that was winding up on the debate stage, right? Like by now, what I had desperately hoped a year ago to see us speaking about is 2020 election cycle. We're coming up. Boom. Fourth industrial revolution. We can finally start talking about one of the most like core aspect that like humanity revolves around is the dignity of work, resource allocation. These are things that like no matter who I'm around, no matter who I'm talking to, this is a conversation that can get really interesting. Like, hey, what do you dream about doing for a dream job? Oh, I don't fucking dream of working. I don't care about like that. I want to do this. I want to do that. If you had $1 million, if you won the lottery, right? That's a conversation you can have with anyone if you meet them in the bar. Why is it not happening on the debate stage? Why is it suddenly now some kind of ultra obscure type of thing? Like Andrew Yang was bringing it, but then every single person wants to say, oh, the only thing that he's talking about is $1,000 a month, as if you don't actually have the ability to look further and see how this would critically change the foundations of what it means to be human alive in the 21st century. Do any of these things matter? Like, really?
I mean, they all do, right? But I think you're right to look past that to this potential transcendent moment. And that's one of the first things I said. We just finished watching his final statement. My biggest worry about it is that it bounces off people's heads, because this is like this is not a thing that people are always necessarily ready to see, right? Like we talk about the economic gain, and I mean, the first time I told Greg about UBI, he was like, "You're fucking crazy." I'm paraphrasing, but the reason is like he's laughing for a reason, because that's more or less what it was. And that's you, honestly, because I've been talking about this for years, right? And so to see a presidential candidate, obviously, is why my nipples are hard 24 hours a day. But it's not an easy thing for people to grok all the time, right? And to have him talk about capitalism needs to be serving humanity, right? We need to separate things like GDP from things like humanity, and these things that, I mean, Seth, you and I, and well, Greg and everybody else who watches this show, because I never fucking stop talking about it. Like we're all coming around to these ideas and really contemplating them. My big worry is that it just bounces off the normal Democratic primary electorate's head,
right?
Because they're all kind of stuck in the normal Overton window, right? Yeah. What's your answer on healthcare? What's your answer on foreign policy? Like, what's the thing that the newspaper is going to be saying tomorrow that makes sense in my general worldview or whatever, right?
And this is part of the I don't know. So when I'm talking about, a self-driving car made a coast-to-coast delivery 2 months ago, literally, without any human engagement through the snow and rain, I know deep down inside that it could be 10, 15, it could possibly be 20 years before we actually see some massive disruption. I know.
That's so adorable.
I know.
And generous.
Well, yeah. It's generous, but I put it out there, and I it's possible to be wrong. It always is.
Right.
But it doesn't matter. You have to start working on this early. And the fact that, like, I don't know, I feel like I'm the dude out there with the sign in the middle of traffic saying, dude, the world is ending. We have to do something right now. You have to start making these steps right now. And to just see it, like, flying by people's faces and, like, nothing's happening. Like, I'm going kind of insane, to be honest.
Well, it's hard. And the thing that I always think about, and like Deb Avera, who's like, it like works for NASA, if I'm not mistaken. Just want to throw that out there. Whatever. Yang is banging the drum that the workforce will continue to be people serving people. AI is here now and coming sooner than people believe. I mean, like, especially like, again, for the hashtag coffee crowd, like we talk about this nonstop. Part of me wants to apologize. The rest of me never will. Like it's this thing that's coming, and we know that it's coming. I did not think that we would be talking about UBI for another 5 years.
Yeah, and I want to hop on that for a little bit. A lot of people in my chat are really bringing up, and they're right. I mean, I was expecting Yang to kind of take off the gloves, whatever, but at the same time, I don't think that there was any way that Yang could have performed. This is what I'm trying to say. There's nothing Yang could have really said that is going to get this message through other than what he has done already. I can't look at him and say you have framed this in any way that wouldn't have worked, that people wouldn't have gotten. In order for people to want him to do what they needed him to do, or to think that he was going to do, he was going to have to play the politician. Like, he wasn't going to be able to interject into so many of these conversations, because it was just little back and forth catty talks between these people who already have their ingrained problems. Like, he's leagues ahead.
I do want to touch on that. I want to make sure. That notice is fantastic.
Pro tip: you can wrap a dish towel around that, and that way we bang it won't make the.
Listen to this.
Some really problems with it.
Seth, have you listened to The Wilderness yet for this season?
A little bit, just a little bit.
Okay, finish it.
Okay.
And I'm almost done. But part of the context for why I'm bringing this up is they have and I know Pete's doing this, and you can tell that he has this team working with him. They are A/B testing messaging like it's their fucking bread and butter because, and this is sad for everyone, but welcome to politics. That's real, right? And we connect with Andrew Yang's message because we know what underpins it, right? In an hour or a 3-hour Rogan episode or whatever, when you hear him lay it all out, it is incontrovertible and obvious. And then you become Yang Gang, and then you're just like screaming from the rooftops all the time. But retail politics is different, right? And I'm glad that he fired a bunch of people from Iowa. If there's any chance at all, it has to be this thing where, you're not a politician, but Steyer fucking managed to do it, right? Like he brought guns blazing, and because he kept bringing the fire, people kept coming back to him, right? Because they're polling. They're nationally, they're polling exactly the same.
And hold the phone, unless Yang had an extraordinary finish. It was inevitable that those organizers in Iowa were not moving forward, right? You don't bring the entire staff everywhere with you. For instance, Tom Steyer, who didn't have a great night, took like maybe half of the organizers from Iowa forward to Nevada. I happen to know one of them, right? So not everybody goes forward. You're hiring some people in place in those states that are on the ground and going to stay there. Very few of your people that work in one primary. Like if you sent me tomorrow to Georgia, right after my candidate was knocked out of a race or did bad in a primary, I wouldn't know where to start. I don't know the streets. I don't know the people. I don't know who to go call, whose church to visit on Sunday to get them to come out and canvass for us. Right. So you're kind of going to hire some new staff wherever you're going anyway. And I thought when I saw that headline, I was like, that's a common thing. That's not just Yang. He's the only one.
No, but I think it's good because honestly, like I think the people that he brought on were people that, and I heard this from people in the actual campaign that came on later. Right. And like we're the kind of people that are following the Pod Save America crew that literally fucking ran the Obama campaign,
and they went out and camped out in Iowa this cycle too.
Right? They like what's his face is finding ways to create the Wilderness podcast. He's literally going and doing freaking testing in crowds because that's obviously what he was doing with Obama, right? Like they were testing what his message is going to be, and that's something that to be at the pro level, I think you probably have to do.
Guys were boring. Laugh Track went to bed.
Oh, that's bullshit. Laugh Track. How dare you?
Hey, the launch was scrubbed for tonight. They're going to go on Sunday night.
What?
The launch was scrubbed for tonight. They're going on Sunday night.
Oh, that's good.
But they're going at night. You know why, Corey?
Because the sun is scary.
It's the solar probe. You got to go at night. Otherwise, it's too hot. And that's why you go at night.
Seth, I'm sorry you had to hear that joke. Go on.
Wait. What launch is this?
The ESA, the European Space Agency Solar Orbiter. Was supposed to launch at 11 o'clock tonight. They delayed it till Sunday. I'm sure it's wind because it's still windy out on the other coast. So, yeah.
I love all things space launch. And
do you have Disney Plus?
I do. Yes.
There is an outstanding SpaceX documentary on Disney Plus on the National Geographic subsection, I believe.
Okay,
noted. Oh yeah.
Seth, on Friday mornings, we actually generally do like a sciencey kind of thing. Like we covered a bunch of politics because I don't know if you noticed this week was a little bit heavy on the politics thing, but we covered some science news on hashtag coffee thing. But Greg and I have this, and it's not fair for the record. We have this debate going on as to, please correct me if I'm wrong, whether the SLS, whether NASA, Boeing, and Lockheed will get human beings into space before SpaceX does.
Oh, is it into space or to the moon?
Oh, I think it's to the moon. I think you're right. I think it's to the moon. Either way, I'm going to win. So
no,
I'm
you're not
really comfortable with this. Would you be okay moderating a debate, or could you be at all? I mean, if you can't be unbiased, because honestly, like I'm clearly going to win, so I get that would be hard to do, but it would be an excuse to have you on for some nerd chat.
Sure, but I'm way far out there, so whoever's
define. What do you mean by way far out there?
Well, I mean we clearly live in a simulation designed by a benevolent architect.
Oh God, here we go.
I mean, okay, hold on. A simulation designed by a benevolent architect.
By a benevolent architect, yeah.
You had me until benevolent. Have you met a kid with leukemia?
Yeah.
Have you met anyone who's ever played SimCity?
Yeah. No, you see, from one of my favorite episodes of South Park, Butters is sitting, I think he lost his girlfriend or something, and like the emo kids are talking to him and they're asking him why he's so sad. He's like, no, I'm happy. I'm happy to be sad because without all of this sadness, I don't think that I would ever appreciate the true bliss and happiness. So the reason why life sucks so bad is because life is also really freaking good.
How much do you know about physics?
Zero.
How much
Okay.
pot have you smoked tonight?
No, because I love this. I love this argument, but I always want to bring up thermodynamics because here's the thing. Here's the thing about physics. Physics doesn't see cold, right? It like we think about cold because, well, as an example, my wife and I got this is the first fight we ever got into, which is honestly why I married her, was about Fahrenheit versus Celsius because Fahrenheit is dumb and she still decided to defend it, which was adorable.
And you still married her?
Oh yeah, no, I did, and here's why. We had a giant drop down fight about whether or not this was actually relevant or not, and so of course we ended up Googling it. We're driving long distance, and we found out that the freezing sort of notation for Fahrenheit is literally about as cold as it ever gets in Belgium. Because I were fucking somewhere in Holland or some shit, right? So, and that's literally like, oh, hey, this is about how cold it gets, and like this is the solution of the sauce that we make, and then it freezes and blah blah blah. So that's how they came up with Fahrenheit, which is super smart. Where this gets interesting is that none of that actually means anything, right? Heat is a function of the amount of energy that goes into a system, and cold doesn't actually exist at all, right? So this comparison, because we're human, we need to understand sadness to understand joy, I think is functionally incorrect, right? You could imagine a system where a human brain only ever experienced joy, ever.
Right.
And only would experience more and more joy, right? Now, don't get me wrong, as an experiential thing from one day to the next, we can, as pattern recognizers, recognize a pattern that is more joyful and less joyful or whatever, right? And because of that comparison, do that. But it is by no means inherent to the simulation to require it. So that could actually be proof that the designer of the simulation is a fucking asshole.
Yeah, and actually, I'll say you've swayed me quite a bit there, and I honestly do think that instead of it being benevolent architect, it's more likely that a loophole to get past exception style. You keep going down and lengthening time that you have a problem, but. So I guess the answer is yeah. I would love to come
like
on
that. No, show over. Yeah, getting in the way of entropy is basically.
Here's Corey and I paddling around a raft trying to get to Mars, and frickin' Seth is already.
No, so, I'm punching my way out of this fucking simulation. You fucking plebs.
So I will join you guys in this nutty scientific podcast that you do, but I think we need to bring it back to the debate here for what the people came to discuss tonight.
Oh, they're used to us rambling around aimlessly.
Yeah, but I think we're on Seth's show too, and I think they're.
Okay.
We're not.
Okay.
Oh no, yeah, no, fuck it. No, our people are good. In case
you can't tell, I'm not feeling great about tonight and everything, and I'm not trying to say that to kill momentum.
No,
or
you're
anything.
fine.
I think we have a chance. I think we have a real chance to overperform in New Hampshire, and
Me too.
I don't want to give people any false hope. I thought we had a better chance to overperform in Iowa than we would have in New Hampshire, but apparently Yang, from the beginning, and his campaign have said that New Hampshire's where it's at. New Hampshire's always been where it's at.
Honestly, I agree, and here's the reason why I say that. I did have high hopes for Iowa. All you have to do is if I let Greg off the chain to talk about what we talk about off air, I was embarrassingly excited about our potential in Iowa, and that was ridiculous. And I knew it was ridiculous even then. But Iowa's just a straight primary, right? So it's one thing to outperform the polls when your polls.
New Hampshire is a straight primary.
Sorry, that's what I meant. It's one thing to outperform the polls when your polls are like 4 or 5% or whatever, and you maybe do 6 or 7, but the reporting is completely and totally shitty, right? Like if Chet, who's in the thread right now, right? Chet Gaines was there. They literally reported initial turnout as fucking 0, right? And there was a bunch of people there for Yang, and that actually happened in at least 100 places where they literally didn't count anything for. And even when Yang qualified, had the 15%, they still didn't count it in some of those precincts. They counted as 0. So there was a lot of that, right? And we don't know why. I think it was a lot of just mistakes and how they were trying to adapt to new systems or whatever. But either way, it was a complete fuck up. But in New Hampshire, you're not going to be able to do that, right? So if he's going to outperform the polls at all, it's either going to happen or it's not. Like we're going to know. We're going to have like real empirical data on whether or not this is working at all. I
think you guys are going to hate the day after the New Hampshire primary.
We might. I think
I love Andrew Yang, and I would be super, super excited if he performed really well in New Hampshire. I'm not sure I feel it. But I also want to remind people that, in the last presidential cycle on the Republican side, they had the same kind of thing where they had a shit ton of candidates. Most of them truly loathsome people. The only one of them that I would ever consider pulling a lever for was John Huntsman, and he never pulled above like 0.5%.
That's a Republican
I
party,
was
though.
crazy, but
He was actually the only one I was worried about.
Who won the Iowa primary last time, or the Iowa caucus last time on the Republican side?
Wasn't it like Ted Cruz or something?
Mm-hmm. It was Ted Cruz.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
And he was gone by August, right? So we really don't know where this is going to go.
Yeah. And you know, there was Clinton who performed a little bit like Yang did, and but
I think, like, here's the thing: if Yang is actually going to win this thing, this debate performance is not how to do it, right? Like the sad thing about this is you and I both know all of his answers were fucking completely and totally on point, but the larger electorate isn't going to care.
Mm.
And some of them will. Don't get me wrong, some of them will. But we can't be in the some of them will category when you have like 2 or 3 weeks left in your runway, right? You have to be intense. And so you have to look at the field, right? And right now the field is Bernie Sanders and everyone who is trying not to be Bernie Sanders. And there's like 7 people trying not to be Bernie Sanders because Bernie Sanders is like, my base is my base, and fuck the rest of the Democratic Party. That's literally, and he fucking lied a bunch of times tonight, which drove me bananas about not being divisive and all this shit. I literally watched him do it all day, or his campaign did. And if he didn't know it, he's still to blame, right? But the rest of the Democratic Party is literally trying to be this thing that is other than him, right? Which is why it's so split up. And Yang mathematically is the perfect thing to fit into that hole. And you and I both know this, right? Mm-hmm. But unless he drives into it like a missile and lives there, I mean, when Steyer out fucking does you in a debate, right? Like the whole, they didn't call on you. Well, honestly, it doesn't matter. Like, and I love Scott Stanton to death, but that's what he was saying on Twitter. Like, they didn't call on him. They're not calling on him. They're not calling on him. Honestly, it's on you, dude. This is an equation you have to solve, and it has nothing to do with what other people are going to say. You have to jump in. If they're talking about diversity and they don't call on you, like, hey, there's an actual fucking brown person on this fucking stage, right? But, but he's constitutionally unable to be undignified, which I love him for.
Yeah, that is his whole thing.
It's a real thing that I think he's just not able to do.
He's not a politician.
Which is great. Right. He's not. But at the same time, like, Trump's not a politician, but he's also a raging fucking asshole. Mm. And sadly, that actually works.
Mm. You are Mr. F-bomb tonight, man.
I'm sorry. I've had a bit of rum. I'm not gonna lie.
No kidding.
I've had a small dram of the rum.
So one of the things that I feel like I need to put on the table, and I'm not going to lose any friends over this, but honestly, I am beginning to hear that kind of. I get the feeling from Yang supporters posts that I see that they're not going to come over if he's out. That they're going to fade. They're going to back away from the process. Be okay, I guess, with another Trump term, or I just don't feel like I'm 100% certain that 90% of Liz Warren's supporters, if she's eliminated, are going to decide what other Democrat to vote for in the general. I'm not sure that Yang is bringing that with him, and I'm worried about that. I'm concerned about that.
That's fair. And honestly, like, Bernie Sanders supporters are exactly the same way. I talked to 3 of them today that said that centrist Democrats are worse than Trump supporors.
Yeah, okay. See, that's I got a problem with that,
dude. Me too. Obviously, like, we talk about this all the time. And for me, as somebody who's I still have to talk to Rio about this because we haven't really had the whole heart yet about this particular thing. But I'm not sure that he knows, Greg, that after 2016 and we do the coffee on the dock. Seth, I used to do this show from my dock on the water, and we were there the day after the election, and 72 hours before the election, I started wondering, like, fuck, I think we might actually lose this thing. And I didn't volunteer for Hillary Clinton the same way I did for the Obama campaigns twice. We didn't really talk about it. It was all just sort of assumed, and Trump was an asshole and Clinton wasn't very inspiring, and we fucking didn't do anything, right? And so that all obviously went the way that it went, and we had an opportunity to do something about it, and we didn't do it. And I took a year off. Like, I literally didn't want to talk to anybody about politics ever again because it was completely and totally messed up. And
that was turned into sort of a business guy. It was weird.
I did. I wore pants and everything. It was fucking horrible.
I've shoes more than once.
Yeah.
Closed-toed shoes, socks, even. It was what the.
This is insulting and horrifying, but also true. But I did, like, I wanted to apply myself to something I could actually have an effect on. And within a year, and again, like, I don't know, Seth, if you know this, like, I'm Canadian. Literally none of this actually matters to me, selfishly, except that I have to live here with all of you fucking weirdos. But at the same time, and a lot of Canadians feel this way, the American experience is actually important to us. Like, it really is. And so I, get dragged back in and realize that I could have done way more. The only thing that I can do is talk on the internet.
Can you smuggle me across the border?
I mean, we've talked about it. We might have a bus, but that's the thing. Like, I can't vote, so the only thing that I can do is learn as much as I can, communicate as much as I can, and hopefully inspire anyone to do something that is correct, right? And so I started doing a show literally every fucking day that was literally just about this. Just about getting people to vote, just about, like, literally looking at the Supreme Court and figuring out that, oh my God, Kavanaugh is a fucking nightmare, right? Like that, and every single day. And now we're in this situation where Yang absolutely has the best ideas, bar none. I've said it a million times. I'll say it a million more times, right? But anyone that suggests that they will not vote or will maybe fucking vote for Jill Stein again, what you are voting for is Donald Trump. You can't make a moral argument that I'm just voting my conscience, because it's not fucking true. The actual mathematical result of any non-vote, which is even worse, or a fucking third-party vote or anything else, is a 7-2 Supreme Court that will literally sell your sister's womb for money. Like a hyper-conservative 7-2 Supreme Court for the rest of your lives.
So I think what we're seeing is going to be a lot of expressions of hurt, a lot of expressions of disappointment from a super energetic base.
Yeah.
And it's going to look a lot different to them 10 months from now, 9 months, holy crap. 9 months from now, after it's all said and done, after the wounds have had the salt poured in and everything, when they've seen Trump still fucking up on a daily basis, still doing things that are eroding and dissolving our democracy. Just today, the Colonel Vindman and his twin brother thing.
Both of them were fired today.
I didn't know both of them were fired, though.
Yeah. They walked off. They were escorted off the White House grounds together. Alexei was fired.
Wow.
Yeah, we're on a non-stop slide into fascism. And unfortunately, though, I mean, I can't sit back and say, oh, the country's going to do the right thing, because that's not how it's been in the past. Fascism has won out. Man, I don't know, because I've sat back and I'm like, oh, this hurts. This really sucks. There's a lot of things about Sanders that I don't like this time around and everything. But no, I don't think. I mean, I still haven't made any kind of decision or anything, and it's before New Hampshire, so we're still being really early.
It's way too early. That's exactly it. Even Steyer's performance tonight is surprising, right? Mm-hmm. There is so much. I mean, fucking Yang could win California. That's a thing that could happen, right? It's not likely, but it's not impossible.
It's also pretty late.
But not, I mean, like California, like it's on Super Tuesdays in a month.
Right.
Yeah. Like Yang's actually polling really well in California already. Okay. Like he was actually polling higher than Kamala Harris, who I don't know if you knew this, but Kamala Harris is from there. It's weird. I don't know if you
so is Andrew Yang.
Well, that's what I was just saying. Yeah. You know, one of them is a senator from that state that used to be the attorney general, and the other one is Andrew Yang. So we don't know is the point, right? And I don't know, man. Like the idea that he's running the way that he's running and he can't do anything else, I love desperately. I really do. But American politics is a blood sport, not a fucking debate with rules.
So maybe Andrew Yang, makes a decision to bow out of the race earlier than we would like, but 2024, 2028,
right?
An AOC Andrew Yang ticket, at some point in our future. Or
Steyer drafts him. Right? Like the thing is, like whoever, and Tulsi tried this already, it's not working, but whoever Yang decides to actually back in this race, I still believe that Warren could finish reading his book and come around and be like, oh shit, he's totally right about all this stuff. We got to fucking adapt. Right. Now, granted, I think she's like really desperately trying to be middle of the road Overton window, which might actually end up being the right call. I don't know. But like one of these candidates is going to figure this out. And if they don't, like if Bernie Sanders wins or anybody else wins, like I'll be up for a primary if a Democrat wins in 2024, because I'll tell you right now, nobody in this race who's a Democrat literally sees what's coming at all.
Which is why, and I hate this because I keep on seeing it all the time. Like, oh, yeah, I really like Yang. He should be a cabinet member, or he should VP pick, or maybe not VP pick, but definitely Secretary of Labor or something. I'm like, it is functionally useless to have Yang in any sort of position if that platform doesn't meaningfully pursue universal basic income as a primary.
Careful though. Let's back off that. Because I get the sentiment, but let's look at the counterfactual. Let's say that Elizabeth Warren decides to bring him on as labor secretary, right? And yes, she doesn't totally agree with UBI or whatever. There is a constant voice as the fucking labor secretary that does.
Right. He gets
that is not a zero sum situation. Like already, UBI was completely and totally, persona non grata. We're not allowed to talk about that at all because that's ridiculous. And now it's literally at the center of labor politics in America. That is not a non thing. That is a huge thing. Right?
Yeah,
so,
and it just requires going back and paying attention to the things that the guys from Pod Save America, not John Lovett, John Favreau, it tells us about shaping policy in the first year of the Obama administration, that cabinet secretaries were picked because they were going to be able to help him shape what were the most important things they had to do to get the economy out of a ditch. And if I'm Elizabeth Warren, I'm going to depend on advisors who maybe have a counter view, and I find myself adopting some of those things because they make a whole lot more sense when I'm better read into them. So, I'm okay with. I'm a person who actually says that. So sorry about that, but I kind of feel it that he's going to have a place in the conversation if he's in the cabinet, and that's better than not having the conversation. And again, 8 years ago, if you said Medicare for all, you were Bernie Sanders. There was no other voice on the national scene. Seriously on the national scene making that argument, and now they're all touting some form of a healthcare system that is more socialized medicine than anything we've ever had. And so we get to have the socialist argument and be the only country in the industrialized world that can't figure out how to do this. But we're having the conversation now in a way. And like the national director for Medicare for All was here in Florida briefly. And we had a couple of really good conversations about exactly that having the conversation in the presidential campaign means in the midterms, we could actually have a floor fight over such things. And that could be where we end up with UBI, that in 2022, right, we end up having, actual legislation introduced. And if you don't think they're going to ask Andrew Yang for his information and data on that, and it's not just the president that drives what gets passed into law, right? We think of the president as responsible because they campaign on it, but a lot of great legislation doesn't come from the president. The president signs it.
Yeah.
So we can have this conversation in other formats too.
Right. While I don't think the UBI caucus is going to win any seats this time, even though like I hold like an intense flame of hope that they might. Like the UBI caucus 3 months ago wasn't a thing.
Doesn't exist, right?
Right. And it takes, we're talking to James on the Moving Forward podcast. He's running in California, and he's running against a Democrat, of course, who's got, all the money, all the institutional memory, all the, whatever, right? Like it's an uphill battle for him, but he's already thinking in systems terms, right? Like Greg and I said to have more Greg than me. We've worked with candidates that are working locally in Pasco County to actually try and take county commissioner seats and different things like that, right? So and working with the Democratic Party locally that is earnestly trying to actually accomplish these things. And there is a ton of institutional memory that comes with those organizations that is just inherently invaluable to people that are running. And so we're starting to develop that right now, right? And for me, if Yang loses now, it honestly it just means it takes longer. Because I've been saying, Greg, did I or did I not say that UBI was not only important but inevitable?
Yeah, absolutely. Inevitable
3 years ago.
Yep.
Right, because you can't look at these trends and not see what I'm seeing. And more people are seeing that all the time. And so, while I want him to be fucking polling at 50%, and he should be polling as a Democrat and a Republican at 100%, quite frankly, because he literally has the best ideas in the race, we don't get to dictate that. Even though, I want to sign up. If I could be a tyrant just for a couple minutes and be like, hey, like, you people all need to listen. As it turns out.
It's weird because, before I go to that, I think that any kind of position that Yang gets has to come side by side with like at least a bone, at least like we're gonna look at UBI seriously.
And I don't think you would take it unless that was true, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, like if it wasn't true, let's say, just as an example, Bernie Sanders brings him on and says, we're never going to do UBI. We're actually only going to do the federal jobs guarantee, and Yang takes the job. How is that going to go?
Right, because
I can tell you, Yang will go to the media every day and go like, I'm actually working for the federal jobs guarantee, but it's an idea that is completely and totally useless, and what we should really be doing is UBI. And he would do that every single day till he got fired.
Right? It would be about 3 days.
It might be 3 days, but it would be a great 3 days.
And that's the thing, is that when we say UBI is an inevitability, like Thanos, it is weird because I can have a conversation with a Republican who's staunchly against anything, even on the remote side of socialism, who will say, yeah, well, if automation happens to that degree, then I guess we'd have to do something like that. But like the one group of people who actually will like hold their ground and say, no, a universal basic income cannot work, is like that certain sect of modern monetary theorists who find it anathema to a federal jobs guarantee and full employment. And at that point, you hit a wall. And that's what I try to get across to Bernie Sanders supporters when it's like, listen, if we're going to come together on this, Bernie has to throw a bone. Bernie has to acknowledge why this is important. Because I don't know, like I'm kind of reaching more and more to this point where it's like, okay, well, if Bernie is the one, and I don't know how I'm going to talk to Rio about this. I'll be there for the conversation if you need someone else with you, because I know he's going through something right now. But if it comes down to like me having to support Sanders, my channel is going to evolve into a how badly can I abuse the federal job system, right? Like, come along with me. I'm going to blog. I'm going to document all of this. Let's see what I can get away with, because I think this is such a trash policy. And it's totally disregarding the real need that people in poverty in our country are.
And here's the thing, like, that Bernie would never get it passed. Like Bernie Sanders would never get a federal jobs guarantee passed.
Not in the image that he views it in. It might be like a
and honestly, like if he wanted to do it as an executive order, he would never get it funded, right? Like all of this shit is academic, right? Like a cursory understanding of how the politics works in the Senate and the Congress means that he would never in a million years get that passed. He hasn't done the work, right? Like it isn't going to happen. What is really truly fucked up about a UBI is when I sent it to my most conservative friends, they were like, this is genius. And I was like, what? Like, it's insane, right? So I totally agree with you. And like, if Bernie manages to win, and I was an intense Bernie Sanders supporter in 2016. Ask anyone. It was the thing that I talked about to the annoyance of anyone that would listen, right? Now he's like at the bottom because his ideas are shit. They just are. And his followers are truly assholes. And Greg, how many times did I argue that Bernie bros were fake?
Yeah, a lot. It was annoying because
I fought it. I really did, because I didn't believe it. I didn't believe that there was any way that Bernie Sanders, who was this super nice person, could inspire this amount of vitriol, and I was fucking wrong. I was wrong. Now, that said, all of that said, if he's the nominee, like I spend, and again, like I don't want to say that I'm like entirely altruistic about this stuff, but I think about it, I guess in those terms, none of this shit's going to matter to me. Like personally, it really won't. Like I live with so much fucking privilege that I think like I hope that I can maintain enough consciousness of that to come to conclusions that are for all people, not just for any feeling that I might have on my own, right? Right now, we've got a Supreme Court that was stolen, that will overturn Roe v. Wade, that will encode Citizens United as a thing that is absolutely abjectly perfect, that will basically make Bill Barr the ultimate example of what a Justice Department should look like, that will make Trump completely and totally perfectly safe in whatever he wants to do. That's 5-4, right? If he wins again, it's 7-2, right? RBG's goddamn brilliant. She will not last another 4 years, right? And the other one probably won't either. A 7-2 Supreme Court will last the rest of my life, but Seth, honestly, maybe the rest of yours.
Yeah.
Right? And there is no Democratic candidate that is problematic enough so that we can't pull our fucking pants up and do the right thing.
Where's that benevolent architect, right?
No,
but honestly, for real, at this point, like, if things kind of do go this poorly, it's okay, because in the grand scheme of things, the way this was all coded out is that, like, we reached the climax, and that's when the black box AI system kicks in, and it says, no, you're not doing any of this. I'm taking over real quick. Go into cyber paradise. I believe that that's probably what will happen. But for real, I'm thinking it's a little unusual that Silicon Valley does seem to be pro universal basic income to some degree, and yet the systems that they have in place to tamper with our elections, which tampering with our elections is legal now, just in case anyone isn't aware, our Senate has come out and said it's fine. You can find help in whatever ways you want. Where is the help on our end from the powers that have? I'm kidding, of course. I wouldn't ever.
No, but it's real. That's a totally real thing, right? Like that, the election. What we used to think, and Greg and I yelled about this to everyone who listens to Hashtag Coffee. We've been yelling about this loudly for about 1.5 years or 2 years. But it's encoded now. You ask Russia for help, that's totally fine. You ask China for help, that's totally fine. To the point where I would like. You're right.
Maybe not if it's us, right? It's still illegal. Well, no,
that's exactly it. If you're in Congress and you ask China for help, you're gonna get arrested. But if you're the president, and also like if you're a Republican president, because I'll tell you right now, if you're a Democratic president and you do that, we will not protect you, and that's the difference, right? Republicans will literally just like stick the donkey dick in their mouth and just fucking roll with it.
Corey's definitely had a lot of rub.
I'll never.
I'm sorry. I mean,
I'm gonna get banned off of YouTube.
You make one donkey dick joke.
Okay, I'm gonna share a photo now. Let's see where'd it go. Come on.
Oh no!
Oh, my mouse is not working.
I'm terrified about what is.
Yeah, should I hide my screen really quick?
No,
maybe.
No. So the guy with the bass.
Oh fuck!
That's Corey Cottrell playing bass.
Why are you doing
what?
In a country music band.
Oh, come on!
What is the band's name?
The Glenn Cummings Band.
See here, you got anything on YouTube?
No, we looked earlier today.
It was pre-YouTube. Yeah, I might have mentioned I was in a country music band and everyone got really excited.
Yeah, I want to thank Sherry Burney for digging that photo up to share with us tonight. Thank you, Sherry.
It's on the internet. It's always there.
Yep, it's true. And hey, go dig and you'll find some embarrassing photos of me, I'm sure.
Did you perform at the Hard Rock Cafe?
I did.
Oh, there's a video.
No, that was actually on the big stage. I only performed on the small stage when Glenn was still small, so I managed to miss that one.
Okay, I was about to say you.
I love the fact that we said Glenn Cummings Band, and you're like, "I got you, motherfucker." And you're already... That's pretty cool. Anyway.
That's okay. One of these days, somebody's going to dig up my campaign ads from when I ran for mayor here and show those on TV.
Those are good though. God damn.
Well, that's because we made them, but whatever.
Well, there's that.
I don't have a lot of dirt on me. I was my realm's best paladin in World of Warcraft back in Wrath of the Lich King. So
I don't know what any of that means, but it sounds amazing.
All right, I think we've exhausted all of our potential nerd cred material for the night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's 11:30. Why don't we wrap this up so we can get some sleep?
Okay.
Thanks for having me on with this. Yeah. I feel like I hate it because I think we're all a little bit like more down than we should be, because really I say this for everything, but it's important to see like where you've come from, where you are now. Really, in the scheme of things, Yang has done an amazing job. Performed so well. Yeah. I see a lot of people in my chat who are like trying to express some frustration, and I get it. Like I wish there was more momentum at this moment right now. I had a lot of things riding on Iowa. but he did a good job tonight. Through and
Yep.
through. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is UBI is permanently in the Overton window now. It's not going to
Yeah.
go away because Yang goes away. If Yang goes away, you know what I mean? Like this is now going to be part of our ongoing conversation, and
Yeah.
we're going to be the three old or reasonably young dudes who are going to say 4 years from now, you know, back in our day, we were talking about UBI. You remember Andrew Yang? Yeah, you know, and
honestly, like,
he'll be back. We'll probably be talking
yeah.
about Andrew Yang 4 years from now. So
4 years from now, it's going to be a $4,000 UBI, and we're going to be like, no, you can just go for $1,000. It'll be fine. Like seriously, 8 years ago, we were all for fucking pro-choice. We were all for like a public option. Sorry,
right.
Healthcare option, right? Which is honestly at best where we're going to land as a Democratic Party. Like that's like, I don't care what people say about Medicare for all. Like, even though I would like to wave my magic wand and make that happen, a public option is the best we're going to get. Because Amy Klobuchar and everyone who loves her exist. That's a thing, right?
Yep.
But 4 years from now, everyone's still going to be saying like, "Oh my God, we need to pin fucking UBI to GDP, and that means it's got to be like 9,000." And we're going to be the ones who are like, honestly, like $1,000 a month is probably good to start. That's fine. And we're going to sound like centrist weirdos.
Like reasonable human beings. So
and here's the thing. I'm entirely okay with that.
You know, defeated, discouraged. That's exactly how Vladimir Putin wants you to feel.
You're right. Right. No, you're
and I do feel that way. So he's winning, but I don't have to live in it. Right.
And a lot of the voices that you will see that are amplifying the message of discouragement.
Yes.
Be aware. I mean, because we did not do anything in the wake of 2016 to actually deal with the problem of disinformation and social media influence. So this is the time. And when you see the people who are saying, oh, I like vote blank or bust, or I'm not even going to do anything, a lot of those might be genuine expressions, but they're going to be amplified by disingenuous campaigns.
They're going to get reposted by troll farms for sure.
So,
and as I said earlier today, and I don't know if you're much of a punk fan, but Henry Rollins said after the 2016 election, don't be discouraged. This is exactly the time that Joe Strummer was training us for. So, you know, there's always hope. The future is unwritten, as Joe Strummer famously said.
So let me say two things. One thing, I have to express some gratitude for my buddy Greg, who this morning was full of righteous rage, while I was just completely and totally empty of anything. You know, yelling at people that we have to vote, we have to fucking like stand up and not fuck around and do all the things that we need to do. And you know, if there was no other reason, that is why I would have no choice but to keep him around. And the other thing is that we have this capacity to choose whether or not we're going to do anything in this moment, right? And I've actually spent time not doing it, and that sucked. Like, if I can educate anyone on anything, the second that you do something or anything that literally just allows you to give up your agency, you're gonna feel it. Right? Like, if you're like, oh, I don't like any of the two candidates, I'm going to vote for Jill Stein. Well, you're literally to fucking blame for a 7-2 Supreme Court if Trump wins again. That's on you, literally. Now, is it true that we should have picked a better, candidate than Hillary Clinton? Fucking of course. She sucked, right? She did. She couldn't win. But at the same time, that doesn't absolve anyone from their personal responsibility. I was talking to somebody on Twitter today, and we had this whole conversation, and I was letting them know that they completely and totally fucked the dog on the Jill Stein vote. But at the same time, I told them I didn't volunteer for Hillary Clinton. So it's my fault too, right? Like, and I'm not going to absolve myself from that.
Right.
So, I really lean on people like Greg, frankly, because when I'm feeling down and like I don't have any gas in the tank, his righteous fucking rage and movement is intense and good.
I got asked tonight to be a staging captain for Elizabeth Warren on primary weekend, from like Thursday before the primary to Tuesday. I'm going to be camped out at Dan Antonino's house launching canvassers for Warren all day long.
Awesome.
Because I know what I'm doing. Like, and how I got there was by going and volunteering with my local Democratic Party to learn how to train canvassers, how to be a canvasser, how to put together packets, how to cut turf. There's more than, like, I hear a lot of people say, we have to vote. No, we have to organize. we have to do more than vote. We
Mhm.
have to organize around the candidate that we choose. And in learning that, when the day comes that our candidate gets eliminated from the competition, we can turn all of those skills to supporting the Democrat that's going to survive and be our nomination for the presidency. And if we're not doing that, we are absolutely guaranteeing Trump a second term. And
Yep.
so we can be mad, but we have to act. We just have to act. That's
it does. It comes down to organization. Anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with me and for putting up with my very rummed out brain.
Absolutely. We're going to be back on Monday with a discussion with Rio, I believe.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to stay on just a little bit longer after we hang up for a little closing segment on my channel. But thank you guys so much for having me on.
Get after it.
Absolutely.
I want to go over there. I want to go over there and listen to it. Oh my God.
Feel free. I'm going to try and spitball some things out. And it's late at night, so I don't know if it's going to be any good or not, but I hope my subscribers.
It will be. Have you heard you? Come on.
Yeah, who knows?
It'll be fantastic.
I'm gonna clam up. Watch.
Get the fuck out of here.
Love you guys. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Ciao.
Sasquatch, Pot Sasquatch is real.
Odd Sasquatch.
Pot Sasquatch.
It's a thing.
Video
apparently.
I showed earlier today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good talk.
All right. Let's see here. So I have no idea if my camera is going to decide to work or not here. Boom. No. Oh no. It's not going to work. It never wants to work. Technical. Just a second. I wanted to have a few minutes to speak because we're almost here at about an hour's worth of live stream, and it just isn't. It doesn't work if we end it that soon. Your awesome wallpaper. Okay, well, that's that. So I just wanted to kind of take a moment and say, from the very beginning, one of Yang's strongest strengths has been the fact that when people are looking at him, like the best thing you can happen is for them to Google him, to Google Andrew Yang. So I understand that he didn't perform as well as a lot of people wanted him to tonight, but at the same time, he did well enough that anyone who was interested in Yang for the first time might be like, hey, who is this guy? I'm going to Google him. And that's where his strength is, because if you have hours and hours worth of discussion, and that type of discussion just is not going to wind up happening on the debate stage that night. The type of zingers and punches and this and that, all of that is just, it's par the course for a type of politician that Yang simply is not and will not be for the foreseeable future. He might have a little bit more of this should he run again in the next 4 years, if the worst case scenario happens. But really, I think the kind of tone that we're seeing and a lot of the defeatists that you may be seeing online tonight are coming from people who are genuinely just disappointed after a bad showing in Iowa, and they wanted something to happen tonight that just simply could not ever have happened. So I think, give it a night. You'll wake up the next day, spend some time around in green, and I really do think that there still is the potential that we can perform much better than the polling is in New Hampshire. It has been where the majority of this campaign's resources have gone. I was reading earlier today that is exactly the thing that Yang's campaign has always been focused on from the beginning, was New Hampshire, which is a little interesting because I would have imagined that Iowa, being the place that he brings up all the time, is one of those who, one of those places where a lot of truck drivers and manufacturing jobs were automated away and everything. These are the people who would be hearing his message and going out and organizing to campaign and vote for him. I would have expected that to be the state, but for whatever reason, New Hampshire, I do think it probably is our last hope. I don't know if we will go on towards Super Tuesday if something happens after that. But, all of this is really just kind of spitballing in the air. No one knows what can happen right now. I just encourage everyone who still believes in Yang's message of, the freedom dividend and humanity first. If you still have it within you, make some phone calls, canvass, text, all of these things, and donate. They're still really important because, well, like we just talked about, there's no one else that is offering something as powerful as this right now, and the movement doesn't stop here. Man, I don't really know what else to say other than that. We will be having a much deeper, I think, discussion on Monday night, me, Corey, and Rio, and that'll be without Corey's rum. I don't know, maybe there will be more rum. It seems like he's kind of going through a bit of a phase right now, so we'll see about that. But that night, we're going to have a little bit more of a time to let it breathe, to look back, to reevaluate exactly everything that went on. So if you want a little bit more of an analytical discussion, feel free to join us that night. To all of my subscribers, thank you so much. Again, Okay, so I just want to take a moment here. I see someone who's probably a troll in the chat, but I'm going to address this right now. Honkster Hong, saying that FD is a gimmick and Yang knows it. One of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight is that I am a person who lives with scarcity, complete scarcity, mental, emotional scarcity. And I had to leave the workforce for personal reasons and started this YouTube channel and tried to follow in the footsteps of Scott Santens to acquire my own universal basic income. It was only last month, which was the first month that I received enough money in crowdfunded universal basic income that I could pay for my basic needs. And it's $550 per month. So the freedom dividend is literally double the amount that I would have received last month, that I have received last month. And it has changed my life. My emotional state of mind, of course, this week is a little bit different than everything else, has improved so dramatically. I have the ability that I can actually sit and breathe and say, things are going to be okay. And that is such a very crucial aspect of life, is the ability to have a voice in your head that say things are going to be okay. That we have to have permeate throughout our society. And for people who think that the freedom dividend is not something that will change fundamentally the entire meaning of what it means to be a part of society in the modern world, just aren't thinking about this very critically. And I can see that you're saying that you're not a troll, but it strikes me as anyone who would think a little bit critically, deeply about this would come to a different conclusion than yours. I am a walking, breathing, talking example of how transformative this policy is, and I just encourage you to maybe take a look a little more deeply into Yang's platform before you go around and accuse it of being some kind of pie-in-the-sky thing. So, with that being said, to my supporters, to the people who have been able to give me this amazing opportunity and risk, I am so thankful for what you have done for me, and I'm hoping to get new content out. This week has been rough. I've got to admit, there was a lot of personal stuff that I've been going through here, but I'm going to be back in action, getting some more content out. And thank you so much for sticking with me through it all. And we will continue moving forward, no matter what happens. I'm going to do whatever I can in whatever manner I can to make universal basic income a reality. So thank you guys so much. I hope you have a wonderful night. And I will catch you at least on Monday at the soonest. Take it easy.